Think positive.
Welcome welcome back to the Goal Ambrose podcast, GA for short. I'm your host, Prince. This is a space for inner work, self-improvement, self-discovery, mindset, accountability, integrity, reflection, and personal development. This podcast is built for growth, for honesty, and for becoming a better version of yourself one day at a time. New episodes drop every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Today's episode is called Over Time, I Realize. The reflection, the honesty, the patience, the space between the old and new self is a gap. You have to come to realization with yourself before you ever realize. Over time, I realize why it didn't happen then. Over time, I realize the patience that was needed was never there before. Over time, I realize that version couldn't see clearly enough to understand what was even in front of it. Over time, I realize it wasn't being ignored. It just wasn't being recognized. Over time, I realize that old self would have mishandled what exists now. Over time, I realized that old self had to go for any of this to make sense. Right now, everything feels more visible, not louder, not bigger, just clearer. Things that would have blended together before stand on their own now. Small shifts get noticed. The way something is said, the way something feels, the timing of something showing up. None of that used to matter like this. It would pass and be gone just as fast. No second look, no real thought. But now it stays longer for a second, long enough to actually be seen. There's a difference now in how long something is allowed to sit. Before, everything had to move quickly. A thought comes, it's just gone as fast. A moment happens, it's already replaced by the next. Nothing really stayed long enough to be understood. Now, things are allowed to sit, not forced away, not rushed past, just held for a second. And in that second, more gets revealed, more than what was seen at first. It's the small things that stand out the most now, not the obvious ones, the quiet ones, the ones that don't ask for attention, but still deserve it. Before, those would have been skipped, not intentionally, just unnoticed, because the mind was somewhere else, too full, too distracted, too quick to move on, so nothing really settled, nothing really landed. Now, there's space for it to land, and because of that, even the smallest thing holds weight. A lot of this was always there. The same small details, the same moments, the same type of situations. Nothing about them was new. What's new is the ability to actually see them. Before, it wasn't that they didn't exist. It's that they didn't register. They didn't mean anything yet. There was a time where everything felt rushed. Not physically, mentally. Everything had to move. Everything had to go somewhere. There wasn't really a pause, just constant motion. And in that kind of state, things don't get seen clearly. They get passed through, misread, overlooked, handled without real attention. Not because they didn't matter, but because there wasn't clarity to see that they did. There used to be a feeling of just passing through everything, nothing really sticking, just moving from one moment to the next without anything really settling. And when nothing settles, nothing builds. It's just constant movement without no depth behind it. Now, things don't just get passed through. They stay. They land. They actually mean something. The real difference now is clarity, not perfection. not having everything figured out, just being able to see, being able to sit in something without immediately trying to change it, being able to notice without rushing past it. That didn't exist before, because before, everything was filtered through noise. Now, it's not. There's also a pause now that didn't exist before. Not a forced pause, just a natural one. Some things happen, and instead of reacting instantly, there's a second where it's just seen first. That second matters, because in that second, things don't get misread as easily. They don't get rushed into the wrong meaning. They just exist for what they are. There's a space between then and now. A gap, not just time, but understanding. What wasn't known then is known now. What wasn't seen then is obvious now. And that gap had to exist, because without it, there's no shift, no difference, no growth. That space carried everything that needed to change, even when it didn't feel like anything was changing. The change itself wasn't loud. There wasn't a clear moment where everything flipped. It happened quietly, in small adjustments, small shifts in thinking, small changes in how things are looked at. Nothing dramatic, but enough to completely change how everything is experienced. Looking back, it's easy to see it now, easy to recognize what would have been missed. The same exact moment placed back then would have gone completely different. No pause, no attention, no respect for what it actually was. It would have just been another moment, something to get through, something to move past. But now, it's something to actually see. That version wouldn't have handled this right. Not because it was wrong, but because it wasn't ready. The awareness wasn't there. The clarity wasn't there. Everything was clouded, fogged. So even if something meaningful showed up, it wouldn't have been treated like it. It would have been overlooked or rushed into something it wasn't. So, something had to change. Not all at once, not in one moment, but gradually, until that fog wasn't there anymore, until things could actually be seen for what they are, until there was enough awareness to recognize what's in front of it without needing it to be something else. Things carry a different weight now, even the smallest interaction, even something that seems minor on the surface. It doesn't just get brushed off. It's actually felt, actually noticed, actually understood in a way that didn't exist before. And because of that, nothing feels as empty. And that leads back to now, where things are finally visible, where even the smallest detail doesn't go unnoticed. When there's enough clarity to give things the attention they deserve, not everything needs to be big to matter. Some of the smallest things carry the most meaning, but only when they're actually seen. There's less need now to turn things into something bigger. Before, everything had to become something, had to lead to somewhere, had to mean something immediately. Now, it's enough to just see it, to recognize it, without forcing it into anything else. And that alone changes how everything feels. Over time, it becomes clear. It didn't happen then because it couldn't be seen then. And now that it can, everything holds a different weight. I hope you found something worth taking with you today. Maybe a new perspective, maybe a moment to pause and reflect. Thank you for being here and sharing this space with me. Your presence matters. If this resonated with you, share it with someone you care about, because growth spreads through connection. I'll see you next time. Take care of yourself. Stay grounded. And as always, be safe.